Good morning. Right, on the way to Easton. It is session 7 of the Reconnect Hartcliffe project. I'm just going down the cycle path and just introduced him. We're going to be meeting Mike Feingold today and Iain Stewart, both legends of edible foraging and medicinal foraging, and really nice guys. So, I'm getting beeped at. So we're going to be there in a minute and we'll get started.
One of the things that we're hoping to do is to cover some of the plants that might be useful in the current situation with the COVID virus. There's a lot of anxiety and stress around, so some of the plants are about helping sort out your mind so that you're not quite as anxious and worried.
Yep.
And you can also rest and sleep better.
Yep.
And other bits are to do with boosting your immune system and looking at antiviral herbal herbs.
Right.
Perfect. And on that note, I'll take a step back so we've got our 2 meters.
Yeah. So keeping your mind straight, keeping your immune system straight, helping you sleep better, helping you work better,
Action shot.
and helping your immune system cope better. Yeah.
My name's Mike Feingold, and I'm been involved in ecological living for a long time. I'm not a medical herbalist, but I know a certain number of wild plants and a certain number of uses of some things.
And my name is Iain Stewart. I am a medical herbalist, and Mike was one of my teachers when I was learning permaculture a few years ago. And I've got a particular passion for helping folk to really know what's on their doorstep as far as medical plants are concerned, because in our kitchens and on our doorstep there's loads of stuff that can help us out. And we're going to start with this tree here. So this massive tree, maybe you can pan up, Ed. It's a huge tree, yeah? I don't know, it must be 50 metres high. It's the lime tree. Posh name is Tilia europea, is its Sunday name. All plants have got like a normal name, like the lime tree, and they've got this posh Sunday name as well that you can recognise them by. But the blossom of this tree is really good in a tea, and I was telling Mike earlier on, I call this herb the swan herb. And the reason I call it the swan herb is because if you imagine a swan above the water, it's quite kind of graceful and elegant, but then under the water it's paddling like mad to make itself go along. So what this herb does is it helps you to, like, if you know what you need to do but you're having trouble doing it because your mind's a bit fizzy, it reduces the fizz in your mind. It's not like, it doesn't dope you down, it doesn't like make you sleep and that kind of stuff, but it just clarifies the mind and allows you to get on with stuff. And yeah, it's a really amazing tea. So you can just pick it, little bits of the flower. So we look at that then. And then you pop probably half a dozen of them in a teapot, and then give it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then just drink it. And you can eat the little buds as well. We're eating these yesterday, weren't we? And when you eat them, and you just keep chewing them, there's a word in herbal medicine called mucilage. And mucilage is the word we use. It's the easer and greaser term if you want to make something flow easier. And when you eat these, you can really understand what mucilage actually is, because it goes all like kind of wallpaper paste in your mouth. That was Mike.
I mean, lime, the young leaves are really nice added to salads. It's a, and very often you'll get new young shoots coming up. So it's something that you can eat quite a lot of the year, from round about March, April time, and where it's been cut back, you'll get the new leaves coming all the time. So you can eat it quite, up to kind of August, September time. Now these leaves are a bit hairy and hoary and tough. And with lime, there's lots of insects that love eating it and taking the sugars from it.
Yeah.
And if you feel this, it's a bit sticky. that's a whole load of insect shit on it. So you probably don't want to eat it when it's
Not
at that
rough.
stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a kind of good.
But it's rare you can actually get hold of it. Usually you've got to use a ladder, haven't you? This one's really nice because it's coming down to ground level, but often you've got to be up on the back rack of your bike on a ladder or something like that to get at it. Yeah, that's the lime tree.
Roses, most of them you can eat the petals. They're generally quite perfumed and nice. But the medicinal part is the rosehip, the seed thing. And quite often they can go a lot bigger than this. They're packed with vitamin C. And vitamins help boost your immune system. And generally what you do is boil up the seed heads. In the middle of the seed head is a whole load of seeds. They've all got hairs on them and they're therefore a bit of an irritant. So you don't want to eat them raw.
No.
It's got to be boiled
Strained.
and strained.
Yeah. Otherwise it gets itchy in your throat.
And rosehip syrup was a very common traditional vitamin C hit. And I mean, people used to say, well, taking this in the winter as a rosehip syrup would stop you getting colds and things. Well, that's a coronavirus.
Yeah.
So it will help boost your immune system.
All right, so now we're going to talk about a herb called yarrow. This is it here. The thing with yarrow is that maybe you haven't seen it, and then once I show it to you and you get your eye in, then you'll start to see it everywhere. It's got little feathery leaves like that. And its posh name is Achillea millifolium, and millifolium means millions of foliage, so millions of leaves.
You're shadowed in the way from that.
Yeah, but if you look at it closely, it's got these little feathery leaves. So it's got a lot of uses, yarrow. But in particular, it stops bleeding. It's one of its key things. So if you were to get a cut somewhere, then you can take this yarrow. I'm slightly shy of chewing this because there's been a lot of dogs around here, but I'll go for it anyway. You tear it up.
You'll be
Make
alright.
it into a mushy mess like that. Use a bit more than that actually, and then you whack it into the cut, and then it basically pulls all the blood vessels together and stops the cut bleeding. So from an immune system point of view, it's also what we call an adaptogen. It's a big word, but that basically just means it helps us to cope with changing circumstances. Adaptogens are, you maybe heard of herbs like echinacea. Echinacea is a classic adaptogen. Well, yarrow's a wee bit like that. It's got an adaptogen quality about it, and so you can use it externally on wounds, or you can make it into a tea. So a yarrow, and we're going to cover elderflower later. So if you were to mix a wee bit of yarrow and a wee bit of elderflower together in a teapot, a bit of boiling water, wait 5 minutes, and then just drink it. Yeah, you could have a right proper good radical experimentation with different herbs that you find growing on your street. We're not going to cover any herbs today that are like in any way poisonous, and so everything that we're going to cover today you can go mad on. You know, the dog pee is the worst thing you're going to worry about, and you can wash that off at the kitchen sink.
Another really good use of yarrow is the root. Basically, you'd wash that, clean it up, just get rid of the bark of it, and that mushed up and chewed, it's an anaesthetic.
For your teeth.
And if you've got toothache, it's brilliant because it will just anaesthetise the area. You won't feel the toothache, and it will give you time to go and get it sorted out later.
So a little taste of it. How does it taste?
Not a massive flavour.
Let's have a blast. I've never heard that before. That's a new one.
I think it's
Oh, yeah.
a very powerful,
Yeah, isn't it?
and you'll feel after about 30 seconds you'll feel
It's like
your tongue
Bonjela.
going
Yeah, it's like Bonjela.
tingly and numb, and that's the start of the anaesthetic kicking in.
Right.
Really useful healing plant.
Yeah.
And I mean, having it as a tea is absolutely fine. You'll get a lot of the properties out.
There's just oh, and beer as well. Yeah, you can make Yarrow beer as well. But there's one other aspect of this plant that I was meaning to mention. So its old name is Herba militaris, because soldiers used to carry it on their belt, and when they got a wound, they would chow it up and whack it in the wound. So there's this whole aspect of this plant is that it can, well, I feel energetically, it can kind of straighten your back. It can give you, you know what the Red Bull advert used to say, it gives you wings, you know. So this is a wee bit like that, in that I think Yarrow is a strengthening herb, both, you know, in stopping bleeding, but also in a more energetic way, and it gives you just that bit more, I don't know, a bit more bounce, a bit more fight, because sometimes you really need that, yeah. So we're just having a wee chat about what I call appropriate medicine, and I want to be really clear that I think that the right kind of medicine should be applied to the whatever's going on. So I was just telling Ben, if you get hit by a truck on the M32, then you don't need like calendula and lavender and hoppy ear candles and that kind of stuff. You need like a fast ambulance, blood plasma thickeners, maybe a helicopter, who knows, on it. Right, carry on, it's fine, all good. So if you do get told, then we really need our National Health Service, and our National Health Service is absolutely amazing. It's got restorative powers beyond our wildest dreams. But then on the other hand, you know, take the road traffic accident aside, if you've got a sore knee, you know, say you got a sore knee and you go to the doctor and you're asking about your sore knee, and you maybe get a paracetamol first time round, and you've still got a sore knee, and then you get ibuprofen, and you still got a sore knee, and then you get cocodamol, and you've still got a sore knee, then you get tramadol, and then so you're working your way through these stronger and stronger painkillers. But some point someone's got to say to you, would you roll your trouser leg up for me? And morning already. All right, come on, boys. You're going to roll your trouser leg up, and let's have a wee look at that knee, shall we, and see what we've got going on, you know. So too many times I see that we need to get to the bottom of the problem. You know, I was an engineer before I was a herbalist, and as an engineer you've got to ask what on earth's going on. We were trained to ask why 7 times before we got to the bottom of a problem, and I think we could do a wee bit more of that in medicine, trying to get to the bottom of stuff rather than just sweeping the dust under the carpet. Anyway, that's my end of my soapbox on appropriate medicine. We're going to talk about calendula very quickly, because calendula is this flower here. It's got a really easy posh name, Calendula officinalis. And the whole officinalis thing was used back in the Middle Ages to name plants that were the ones that were used medicinally. So sometimes if you're getting stressed, anyone who's got eczema or psoriasis as a pre-existing condition, they'll get little flare-ups, sometimes in the crux of their elbow there, or sometimes on the edge of their elbow, on the back of the knee is a classic spot. So with calendula, what you can do is you can put probably say 10 calendula heads into a teapot, pour on boiling water and leave it, let it go cold, and then you can pour that onto a cloth, and you can put the cloth, it's got a compress, you put the cloth onto the area that's inflamed, and it's really, really good at healing skin. Anywhere where the skin's got hot or dry or a bit knackered, calendula is really good for it, because it's antiseptic and anti-inflammatory. So that's calendula. Cool.
Fennel, lots of people eat it as a kind of salad, as a herb salad, but it's actually a very good digestive and helps you digest food properly. In a lot of cultures, like Indian and Arabic cultures, they eat fennel seeds at the end of a meal to help with the digestion.
Yeah. Anywhere where you've got.
Can you rip off a fond just so we can show
Can I have a look at that? It's a really beautiful plant actually. If you look at how airy-fairy it is. So anywhere where you've got like excess flatulence, wee bit extra gas, and fennel's brilliant at calming all that down.
Not all the plants that we're going to show you are wild plants. Some you can find in all sorts of backyards and gardens, and this is a herb that's called sage. It's got loads of different uses, but one of its main uses is it's antibacterial and antibiotic. Really good for oral hygiene and throat hygiene. So drinking a tea of it, or even just picking a few leaves and chewing them, will clean up all your mouth and down into your throat. I mean, the North American Indians used to get sage and burn it, and the smoke would cleanse the room, called like a smudge stick. I mean, sage has lots of other uses too. Again, like fennel, it's a very good digestive. It helps you process fat, which is why we have sage with pork. It helps as a digestion. I mean, the word sage is about memory and brain, and it does help with clarifying memory and brain. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say this is a really good thing to regularly be cleaning your mouth and throat out with. Really powerful healing herb.
Yep. Okay, so this next herb is called Plantain. It's this one here with the brown seedy toppy bit, and then a long stem, and a long, I'll show you the leaf. I'll just pull the leaf off actually, it's got loads of leaves there. It's got a long leaf with these ribs. So sometimes it's called ribwort plantain, or Plantain lanceolata, Plantago lanceolata is its posh name. So the key thing with plantain is, the key action is antihistamine. And so if you get a sting or a bite or anything like that, then plantain is really good for taking the itch and the sting out of the bite. So you take a leaf, it's a familiar story now, always involves putting things in your mouth, eh? Chew it, it doesn't taste terrible, it just tastes like grass. And then, you know, say you've got an ant bite or anything like that, you put this pulped up leaf on the ant bite, and it's quite miraculous. It actually takes the heat and the sting and the pain out of the ant bite or the nettle sting or anything where you've got a
Wasp and bees.
Wasps and bees,
it works really well.
Yeah. So that's the use of the leaf. There's another use for these top bits as well. It's a bit more esoteric in that you can soak these in water and then drink the water, and it acts a little bit like, if you can just see that, Ben, it looks a bit like you know those plastic scrubbing things you use in the sink to clean your dishes.
Technical term.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
I
technical
know what you
term
mean.
is. Yeah.
A bit like a bog brush. No,
Yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah. Well, if you imagine soak these in water, and then it makes a kind of pulpy, pasty-like thing, and if you drink that, what it does is if you imagine inside your gut, because your gut's basically a pipe that goes from your mouth to your anus. So what it does is it sort of cleans you up on the inside.
Well, just because it's rough.
Because it's rough.
Just because the texture of it.
Yeah, because the texture of it, and it also this stuff, this plantain seed stuff, it tends to suck water, it pulls water towards it, so it gives you a little kind of clean. But one thing you must do if you are taking it, you've got to drink a lot of water as well. So anyway, the leaf is probably the more useful part. So that's plantain. Plantago lanceolata. Antihistamine is the main keyword you've got to remember. The next herb we're going to talk about is this amazing bushy plant here. You probably recognise it actually. It's rosemary. Posh name is Rosemarinus officinalis. It's that whole officinalis thing again. So Rosemary's superpower is for your brain. So some people ask me for a tea to help them study because they're doing exams or things like that, and I'll always put rosemary in their study tea. So what it does, when you drink the tea of rosemary, so all you do is you take a sprig, maybe say 3 or 4, a bit like that, teapot, boiling water, let it go much cooler, and then it's ready to drink. So what rosemary does though in your body, if you imagine, it diverts blood from your normal body up the way to your head. So if you've got a cloudy head, or you're forgetting things, or you're just not feeling, maybe you're feeling a bit cloudy and a bit woozy, Then rosemary is perfect. It's called a cephalic stimulant, and it stimulates the brain, puts blood and energy to the brain. So if you're studying or doing work, it's great for that. It's also good in cooking, used loads in food. And interestingly, when they used to be burying folk a long time ago, digging holes in the ground, putting coffins in, then they used to put rosemary on top of the coffin. It's the herb of remembrance. It stitches people together between one generation and the next generation. So.
I'm pretty sure you told me once upon a time, Iain, that you whack a load of this stuff in with porridge oats and with lavender and chuck it in the bath.
Oh yeah, that's true as well. I do that as well. Yeah. That's for.
It's really good. It works for my bad skin.
Bad skin, yeah. If you've got like eczema, mainly for eczema. Yeah. You put porridge oats in a pair of ladies' tights is another subject. Put this much porridge oats, as many porridge oats as you can hold in two hands, just ordinary porridge oats, in the sock of a pair of ladies' tights, and maybe a bit of rosemary, maybe a bit of lavender, whatever you've got. Put it under the hot tap. Put the tight onto the hot tap and then sort of tie it on so the hot water pours through the oats and the bath goes all milky white. And if you've got, especially eczema, hot eczema, it's perfect for that, especially in kids.
It definitely works.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I've had loads of kids.
Yeah.
Loads of kids who've been on the whole kind of, the steroid cream thing. And then it works for a wee bit and then it stops working and then they do more steroid cream and then the skin seems to sort of break down a wee bit eventually with the steroid stuff. I'm wrong with steroids in the right place, they've got to be used sometimes, but long-term steroids, got to be a wee bit careful. Anyway, oats are the answer for eczema.
Here we've got horseradish. You very often find it on the edge of like roads, and it's quite common. And you dig up the root, and horseradish, when you eat it, it kind of, you feel it kind of, the kind of heat coming through the nose, and it basically cleans your nasal passages and lung and helps kind of get rid of snot or catarrh, and that's one of the things that you want to be trying to do, is kind of having a nice clean chest. So horseradish. Elder, it's probably got to be one of the best antiviral herbs going. Traditionally, people used to use the elderberries and make it into a syrup, and it was called elderberry rob, and you have a little bit of it every day, and that will stop you getting winter colds. Well, cold is a coronavirus as well, so it's very antiviral. And as far as I know, the flowers also have certain antiviral properties, so having it as elderflower, making a cordial from it. But you can also just cut the flower and dip it in batter and make a pancake from it, and eat it that way. Elder, well, there was a saying, you never bring elder into the house and burn it or there'll be a death in the family, and that's because it's so full of cyanide. And traditionally butchers used to put the leaves around their window, and that'll stop the flies coming in onto the meat. But as an antiviral, elder has got to be an absolute winner.
The next plant we're going to chat about is this one here. It's called valerian. It's a posh name, Valerian officinalis, and it's the root that we use. And in particular, valerian root is really good at helping people to sleep. So if you suffer with either a stress or an anxiety that stops you sleeping, it can be a cyclic thing in that you don't get a very good night's sleep one night, and then you're either worried about not getting a good night's sleep or you actually don't, and then it becomes cumulative and cyclic. So valerian root, really you do need to make it into a tincture though, so maybe we should just quickly, getting a bit deep, but we'll go for it anyway. So a tincture, imagine a tincture as an alcoholic tea. So it's a mixture of vodka and water with the plant stuck into the mixture of vodka and water. And then the alcohol and the water suck all the chemicals out of the root. You leave it for a month and then it's the watery part, the water alcohol part, that's the medicine. So valerian root's been used for centuries as a herb that helps people to get to sleep. Anything else on valerian?
Well, Valium or temazepam is derived from
valerian.
an aspect of valerian.
Yeah.
So that was about anti-anxiety.
Yeah.
But a lot of the what we call drugs, the short-term and the long-term effect are opposite. So in the short term, it can reduce anxiety, but it's part of its long-term effect can be that it can increase it. So that makes you dependent on it, so you have to keep taking it.
Yeah, you didn't be careful with that. I mean, I never noticed the dependence
No, not with
valerian,
but
but Valium, which is a derivative. It's the trouble when you take a chemical from a plant, so there's the context of the plant, there's loads of different chemicals. But when you take just one chemical and then synthesize it in a laboratory and then make it in a factory, you're taking one or two words out of a paragraph and then you're trying to get the whole meaning of the chapter. So that's what happens with synthesized drugs, is that you can often be taken out of context, and then, yeah, I believe certainly that's where a lot of the side effects come from, which is decontextualizing those chemicals. Yeah. So anyway, valerian helps you get a good night's sleep. All right, we've moved on to a tree. It's a hawthorn. It's a hawthorn tree. Its posh name is Crataegus oxycantha. Now the flowers have all gone for this year, but if you look at the leaf shape, you'll recognise it. And Ben, I wonder if you could have a wee look at the bark for a second, because the bark is also very distinctive. It looks like the bark of a crocodile. So you can always tell hawthorn from its bark and from its leaf. So even if you haven't got the flowers and the berries, you can still tell it from the bark and the leaf. So hawthorn's the key word that I think about with hawthorn is the heart. We use the flowers and the leaves. So we don't use the leaves on their own, but when you pick the flowers, when the flowers are out, you'll often pick a couple of leaves at the same time. It's called the flowering tip. And then we also use the berries a wee bit later in the year. They're used similarly. I think the berries are a bit more nutritive. They've got a bit more sugars and tannins in them. And the flowers and leaves are a bit more, well, they've got these things called anthraquinones, but whatever. Anyway, so back to the heart. So the whole story with hawthorn is, what it manages to do is to get more out of your heart, so more blood is able to flow from your heart. Here's the crucial part, but without putting any more stress on the heart muscle. It's pretty clever, really, isn't it? So it manages somehow to make the heart muscle contract in a way which is more efficient at pushing the blood out, but it doesn't stress the heart. So if you've got angina, or you've got maybe some sort of heart condition, or your heart's getting a bit old or whatever, then everybody, like when you get to like age 55 in Germany, everybody gets put on hawthorn tea, believe it or not. Everyone's drinking hawthorn tea in Germany, and it just keeps your heart in a better condition. So there's another kind of more esoteric use for it as well, which I use hawthorn for heartbreak. You know, when someone's in grief, so someone's died, a relationship's finished, some horrible thing has happened in your life that you can't change. It is as it is. You can't do anything about it to change it. But hawthorn and other members of the rose family, like roses themselves, can really help you to change how you relate to the heartbreak and can find a path through it. Mike, what else about hawthorn?
I mean, early in the season, the leaf is edible as a salad, and it used to be called bread and cheese because it was such a common thing that people would eat as they kind of went to work early in the spring.
Yeah.
A really useful herb is meadowsweet, and it's just about to go into flower, and generally I think people use the flower, but you can use the leaf as well. It's got
Salicylic acid.
it's basically got aspirin, salicylic acid. It's got lots of salicylic acid, so it's like an aspirin. So it's anti-inflammatory, but it's also used as a kind of relaxing, chilling out herb, less anxiety. and you'd kind of make a tea from it. Quite common in sort of hedgerows and kind of meadows, particularly where it's a bit wet. And it, you know, where you get it, you tend to get lots of it. Meadow sweet.
Yeah, there's one other quick thing to say about it is like, so folk might have heard that if you have aspirin, you have to make sure you've got something in your stomach before you have aspirin, because aspirin can sometimes burn the stomach lining. Well, this herb is actually the opposite of that. So we sometimes use this herb for people who've got reflux trouble in their stomach. You know, if you get like heartburn, or it's called dyspepsia, you know, when your guts are not quite right, you've got pain here. So meadowsweet is a friend to the stomach, but it's also got that anti-inflammatory effect. So yeah, it's really good for that kind of stuff. And if you taste it, if you just taste the flowers, I always think it tastes like germaline. But maybe I'm the only one that remembers germaline as a kid.
I've never heard of it.
Like a pink, a bright pink antiseptic cream in a little metal tub.
It's not what it looks like, Ian, it's the age, I'm thinking.
Yeah, maybe I'm just of a different vintage. I'm going to let you taste it in a minute, though. I'm going to see if the germaline message gets back in your head.
Cleavers, sticky willy, goose grass. It's got all sorts of names,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely brilliant as a high vitamin drink. And because you're after the vitamins in it, you probably don't want to boil it. You can shove hot water on it,
Yeah.
or the other way is to just put it overnight in a glass with water, let it soak overnight, and then in the morning drink it.
Yeah.
And it's really rich in vitamins, and vitamins are really good for boosting your immune system. Sticky willy, I mean, it's kind of well known, you know, it'll stick on you. Really good as a kind of vitamin tonic.
Yep. You know, I was reading about this morning as well, Mike, and I read that not that long ago, folk were putting sticky willy into slimming pills. So apparently, it's got a bit of a reputation. If you're wanting to lose a bit of weight, then maybe you drink Cleaver's tea as well. It does clean you up a bit as well, doesn't it? It kind of cleans out the well. So maybe that's how it works.
So, Cleaver's, sticky willy,
Goose grass. It's got all sorts of names.
is
All good,
really good.
all good tonic. And should we cover nettles at the same time?
And nettle.
Because they always grow in the same place.
Nettle has lots of different really good uses. I mean, as a plant, you could, when it's young, before it goes to flower and seed, picking the nettle tips, you can put that into, well, you can use it like a spinach or any green.
Yeah. Just steam it a little bit.
Really rich in iron, silica and nitrogen, protein. The nettle seed is a bit fiddly to collect, but it's a right old energy booster.
Yeah, massive. It's like a superfood, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, I mean, these days it's being sold as a superfood, nettle seed.
And it grows everywhere.
And, yeah. I mean, if you like nettle, it's worth having a patch, and I regularly cut it, and then I'll get the young growth so that I can have nettle whenever I want it. Yeah. When it goes all hairy, hoary and seedy, it's not so nice to eat.
Even if you steam it when it's as old as that, it's not very nice, because the stems are really woody and the backs of the leaves are really woody. Yeah, young leaves are the answer, and it's just so good for you. It's such a really powerful nutrition, because a lot of our food these days is a bit, you know, it's had the arse kicked out of it in all sorts of ways. But this wild food, you know, yeah, it's really good. All right, we're going to move on now to a plant that some folk will recognise. It's called Comfrey. Its posh name is Symphytum officinalis. And if you think about that name for a split second, Symphytum sounds a wee bit like symphony. And if you look at the origin of the word symphony, it means in Greek to join together, which is where like the symphonic orchestra or the pubic symphysis in the skeleton So this plant is all about joining stuff together. Its key use in herbal medicine is as a wound healing plant. It basically speeds the rate at which things heal by making the cells turn over that wee bit faster. And there's loads and loads of scientific research on this plant working. If I pick a leaf, the leaves are a little bit like fiberglass in that on the back of the leaf. Can you hear this? It's got like a sandpapery texture to it, and if you're picking comfrey without gloves on, then it can be really sore on your hands, and it can leave you with a wee rash, a bit like you've got fiberglass. It's used as a tea sometimes. So say you've broken a bone, and then you have comfrey tea, but it's the leaf that we use. These days we don't use the root at all, because there's a particular chemical that if you look up comfrey online and you start to look, is comfrey safe, you'll probably find loads and loads of articles to do with a particular chemical called pyrrolizidine alkaloids. It's a big fat fancy name for some chemicals that damage your liver. Now, there's not many of them in the leaf, but there's much more of them in the root. And so these days we don't use the comfrey root internally. I'll still use comfrey root as a poultice, where you chop the root into a mush, put it in a cloth and put it on a broken bone.
So they called it knit bone, didn't they?
Knit bone, yeah. Knit bone's its old name in English, in that it knits bones together. So if you think of its names, symphytum, symphus, to join, or knit bone is also to join. So its name is giving you a clue as to what it does. Have a wee look at the flowers. I'm not going to pull the flowers off because they're so beautiful. The bees absolutely love these flowers. If you have a comfrey plant anywhere, then you'll have loads and loads of bees all over it. Maybe the last thing to say about it is its use in the garden, and is that. So what comfrey does is it pulls nutrients from the ground and it brings them up into the leaf and the stem of the plant. It's called a dynamic accumulator. So it pulls things from the ground and makes them available to us as humans. So when this has died back a bit, you could cut all this comfrey and make a comfrey tea that can be used on the garden. It's a really, really high potassium feed for heavy feeders like tomatoes and strawberries and cucumbers and stuff like that. But we are diverging a little bit, sorry. So comfrey, Symphytum officinalis, and its key use is to join stuff together. So after something's broken, it makes it whole again.